Personalizing student engagement is only possible when enrollment management and Marcom are aligned. At Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, Ryan Hogan's team uses Element 451 to improve student outcomes.
They love the AI functions where if they're coming up with an email campaign, they can ask it to help develop something and then they go in and edit that. They also really enjoy the use of the landing pages for the campaigns that we build. So not only do we design emails and things, but we can also have landing pages that can give information to our students. And so it really brings the team together. So our enrollment staff is helping identify what the issue is, and then the marketing and communication staff can collaborate with them in Element to provide the solution for the problem we're trying to solve.
Aligned teams create better experiences for students. Visit element451.com to learn how an AI-first student engagement platform fuels a smarter, more connected campus experience. Hi, I'm a higher ed social media manager, and I have a confession. I've been fortunate to avoid heavy approval processes throughout my career. My guest today, content creator and social media strategist Thukral, explains how too many layers of approval can be a content killer. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager. I'm Li Fowler, award-winning social media professional, author, and podcast host, and a recognized voice across the social media marketing industry. Social media managers are navigating the wild, ever-changing world of higher ed communications, and I'm here to share the real stories and lessons behind the posts. Each episode explores the challenges, strategies, and untold moments that come with running social media accounts in today's digital landscape. Let's get into it. First of all, I do want to say congratulations on being nominated as a rising star in social media, which I would say that you are a star, but congratulations and welcome to the podcast. I'm so honored to have a rising star on my podcast.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm so honored to be here with you. I do be rising, allegedly.
Oh, no, I think you are a star. So, but either way, you are shining in the profession. But before we get into the nitty gritty, let's talk about how you got into social media.
Yeah. Well, 10 years ago, which feels like a long, long time ago, I had my first job out of grad school, and I was the youngest person at the job and therefore the only person with social media accounts. And it was an experiential marketing agency. So they would do a lot of cool events and big sets and really fun activations. And they would have all of these high-end polished pictures from professional photographers, but it would just not go anywhere. It would live on a website that honestly is not where most people were going. At the time. This is 2015. So they're like, hey, could you help us put all of these on Instagram? And I was like, yeah, of course. And in my mind, I'd always been online. I used to make Facebook albums when I was in school. I was always on Instagram and posting things. So it was never my goal to be a social media manager. It just so happened that I was the right person.
It came naturally for you.
It came naturally. I was the right person in the room to do that job. So a lot of the times, I would say my first 3 or 4 jobs were not me being a social media manager. It was just adjacent. They would be like, hey, so you like being online. Can you post these things for us? Or I would come up with ideas and be like, I think we should post this and do that. Or a new feature launched, and I would be like, we have to use this. This is going to be awesome for us.
Amazing.
So it just came naturally with something that I was really interested in. Always, I was always doing it for myself to express my creativity. And it was only much later on, I want to say 2019, when I was like, I actually could turn this into a career. So my first official social media job was actually 2020. Before that, they were all adjacent. They were in marketing.
No, it's true.
Related, but they were never like solely focused on an Instagram account or a Twitter account. So it was an interest. I think it was a natural progression, but it definitely made me the most happiest.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because there are a lot of people who started when I started, which is like 20 years ago, and it happened that we had a knack for it or we were willing to do it. But to hear that those that are coming after, who are younger than us, it's still that sort of natural progression is a bit odd for me. You know, it just means like it just means we still have a long way to go, right?
Yeah.
The profession, we need more actual full-time social media managers. And let's try to convince some people, shall we?
Yes.
So I mean, let's talk about where the rubber meets the road. And the approval process is probably, you know, for some of us that are one-man bands can be a little bit simpler, but those who are parts of larger teams could be sticky, right? So can you talk to me about the approval process? Like what's a happy middle? What's too much? What's too not enough? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in two the situations, one where I was a one-person team and one where I was in a larger team in a big corporation. And obviously approval processes look different in like all of these situations. But I think the key component is how much trust your approver or your boss or your manager, whoever is approving your stuff, has in you. That is like one super crucial factor that differentiates like a good approval process from a bad one.
Okay.
If you hire an expert or you hire somebody on your team that you know knows the medium, knows TikTok or like knows the trends, you kind of have to let a little bit of that reign go. Like you cannot control the outcome. Nobody can. Nobody can predict it. But I think when you give that trust to your approval process, you also build the trust in your social media manager to push these boundaries. And in terms of like actually what the approval process looks like it could be one person, it could be 7 people. 7 people is obviously bad. No piece of content that is living on a social channel should be going through 7 rounds of approval process.
It's too much, right? It
is way too much.
And it would take too long.
Yeah,
right?
You're losing time. And in social, like everything moves so fast. Time is like of utmost importance. Like you cannot be sitting and tweaking and making things perfect because your audience might not even notice the little thing that you wasted 3 days perfecting.
And let me just interject. If you are the social media manager, that makes you the social media expert. Like, who are the 7 other people that need to look at your content?
Anybody would be, sure, like legal is one, people from the brand team, your directors.
I understand, like, it's always important to have another pair of eyes. Because
for
of
sure.
Typos, spellings, maybe larger corporations or something that's, can be sensitive. Legal, I get that. But it just seems like for 7 people to have their hands on, it's just, that's a little bit political. Doesn't it feel that way?
It is. And it's honestly, it's very true when they say like too many cooks in the kitchen.
It's totally true.
It's very true. It's like by the end, it's not even what you wanted to get out in the first place. You've taken all of this time, and just like a approval process that is so long drawn out, like will eventually kill creativity.
Yes. Creativity by committee is never good.
It's never a good decision. So it's like just as much for a social media manager to know like how much to push, how much to pull, what to let go, and like what to fight for. I think it's equally important for people who are approving our content to also embody the same thing. And do you really want to sit and like dissect this meme for a whole day straight? Or do you just want to post it? If there are no typos, there's nothing that could get us into legal trouble. There is nothing that could like turn out to be shade to the competitors if we're not like just let it go. But
also you're supposed to trust your social media manager for that. Like they know they know your brand voice. They know your audience. They know your culture. They know what's working. So So we've kind of been talking about trust. You've mentioned that trust is really important, and you've actually said to me, trust is currency, or
Yeah.
trust as currency. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by that?
I learned that in my last 2 to 3 jobs, honestly, the ones where I was super immersed in like social media and leading channels for startups, for small companies, for big companies. And the ones that I did the best in, or the ones where the company like thrived in and grew in, they were the ones where like my managers had trust in me to like experiment with things, to like push the brain forward, to like do new things and bring new ideas. I also think, like, yes, social media moves at the speed of the internet, but I also think it moves at the speed of trust. If you don't have trust in your team, you cannot move fast. Like, and social moves fast. So, sure, things can move at the speed of internet and culture, but I think from my experience, like, things really move at the speed of trust. So I would like encourage people to build that first. Like, if you want your team or your brand to go viral, I think you have to like take a deep hard look with how your team is structured, and like, are you giving that space to your team, that room to like grow and play? And the flip side of it is, if I know that my manager might not trust me, or I might lose my job if I like it, experiment too much, like that is also going to keep me very safe and very like mid. Nothing I do is going to like break the
Be
rules or
super
like,
creative.
yeah, or like
right?
stand out from the noise. And all of that does stem from like trust. I think that is super important with any field, but I think especially if you're a creative, I think that's like the foundation of how much you can experiment.
So I sometimes I find this interesting, is that it's, when people are in positions of leadership, or positions of, a higher pay grade than mine, right? And they say things like, what we need is a viral video. I find that they're usually not the ones that are on social media,
Yeah.
but they seem to know what a viral video
Yeah.
is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, but I think the lesson there is like, you have to be in the spaces to understand what it means to, and at that moment in time, to be viral, or perhaps maybe go viral, right? Like,
Yeah,
you have to be
totally.
in the spaces.
I mean, there is no formula to going viral.
Right.
I'm not met a single social media manager, and I've met some really talented ones, including you. I don't think
thanks.
any of us could like distill it down to like, these are the 3 ingredients you need to go viral. Like,
No.
it never works that way.
We would be much more wealthier people if you and I could just create viral videos on a dime.
No.
Let's be
I
honest
know.
here. If we had the secret sauce, don't you think everyone would do it? Right?
Yeah, no, totally. Which is why I'm like, always when I hear anything from leadership that's like, make this go viral, like there's nothing that can do that. Like, that is so silly.
Right.
That's like that is almost like, can you do a magic trick? Can you fly? Like, there's
Well, I could maybe do a magic trick, but
Yeah.
I cannot fly.
exactly. It's
so,
also
yeah.
it's both like art and science.
Yes.
Like, asking someone
That's
to
right.
make something go viral is neither art nor science. Like, it doesn't fall in either of those categories.
It's a bit of luck. But just going back to maybe there is no differentiation. Is there less trust when there's less understanding of what social is, or is it different per person?
I think it's different per person.
Okay,
Like, sometimes you might get trust from someone who doesn't understand social, and I think that's the best case scenario. They don't understand it. That's why they hired you. So
That's
they trust you.
and they rely on you.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know this. Please help me. It's just what I would do with my accountant. Like, I'm not the best at filing taxes. So I'm hiring you to file them for me, and you tell
Okay.
me, right? So that
Okay.
is the best case scenario of like someone trusting you. And I think the other side of it is like, people who are obviously very smart, and that's why they're in the positions of power and leadership that they are. But I think that can also like be their downfall, like where they want to control everything and they want to be the best at everything.
Or they think they know better.
Right. So they'll hire an
Okay.
expert, but they are not okay with not being that expert. So sometimes that can play out differently where it's like, okay, like, and I still have to get their approval. So I usually, the way that I can like clock a person that might not trust me or like might not trust their social media managers when they go like, I haven't seen this in my feed though. And I'm like, okay, but this is not for your feed. And if someone's bringing it up to you, you need to trust that this is coming in people's feeds otherwise. So I think that's a very good indicator of whether you have trust or not. And it doesn't even have to be whether they understand social or not, but it's like very, it's a very small thing. I haven't seen this in my feed. And I'm like, okay,
Then
do you
you're not
trust
the
me?
market. But also, the thing I realize is I'm not that market anymore. You know,
No.
I'm in a different like purchasing, you know, like market. Like
You're in the Birkin market.
I am in the. Yeah, I'm not in the Birkin market. Get
You're
out
in
of
the
here.
Birkin purchasing power.
No. What am I? What I you know? But I'm not. No, I'm not in that market. But the brackets are different, and we're in different brackets. And actually, you're making me realize something. Chi, is that I always thought it was sort of a lack of education, but it's that, and it's also a lack of trust.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Jenny Li Fowler. Quick question. What if your team didn't have to worry about what's getting missed after hours? What if your campaigns kept moving, your segmentation kept updating, and your students kept getting support while your team focused on the big stuff? That's what a digital workforce makes possible. Element 451 is helping marketing teams rethink how work gets done and who's helping it get done. See Bolt Agents, the digital workforce for higher ed marketers, live at the Engage Summit this June. Register at enrollify.org/engage and use code ENGAGE50 for $50 off.
Also, nobody wants to feel like they're out of touch, right? So it might not always stem from someone wanting to be the expert and just wanting to have control. It might just stem from the fact that they cannot grasp the reality that they are not like the hottest commodity or the most in the know person in the room. It's hard. It's hard, like even for people who are my age, Gen Z or like millennials, like if when we see younger and younger people come in, I think it's more instinctual for us to like let go of the reins, but it's harder for people who are above us to feel like, oh, like I might not be the most educated on this topic in this room. It might just stem from that insecurity too. You never know.
Oh, that's interesting. But it's not even, it's the algorithm and what it's feeding us and the different things that we are seeing, like, my algorithm, Chi, I get like honey, love, and Spanx. Like that's my algorithm. I'm pretty sure that's not what you're getting. So we just have to recognize that we're again in different markets, right?
They're tailored to you. And like, sure, there are things that can like transcend generations and platforms and things like that. But yeah, if I also don't understand what is the harm in like testing a trend. Most of the good social stuff or any creative stuff comes from like experimenting.
Constant experimentation.
And I think in marketing, we're so like generally we're good with experimentation. We're always like ready to do A/B tests. But when it comes to social, people are so much more afraid to do a test and put something out there. But like, what's the worst that could happen? You can just take it down.
Yeah, or it's just not going to get a lot of engagement, and then you've tried. I think being on the other side of, I don't see this in my feed as being, the person that is doing the approving now. I think on my side, I understand that I don't see it or I don't get the trend, but I trust that my intern, I trust that it is a trend. So what I ask is, can you explain the trend to me? And then once they explain the trend, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you see now, and that makes sense.
Exactly.
And then I can give better guidance on, I agree, this is a fit for our culture, or can we do it a little bit of a different way?
No, I think that's a mark of a very good leader. So like, kudos to you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And that is very much like how my favorite mentor / boss, like at my, I don't know, my like 2 jobs ago at Yanko, he was very similar too. He was also much older than me, but he wanted to learn, and he would
And
always
asked you
ask
the
me.
questions.
Yeah, he'd be like, explain this to me. And I would explain the joke to him. Sometimes he would get it, sometimes he wouldn't. But I always appreciated how he said, okay, if you can stand on this and you can get behind it, then go ahead and put it out there.
So
And
you
he's,
don't mind
yeah,
explaining, right?
no,
Because that's
absolutely
okay.
not.
Okay.
You should always, in
Ask the
fact, I think
questions.
part of the approval stage that it's on the social media manager to set is giving the context. Like, if you can give the examples, like show them the TikTok, show them the tweet, show them the trend, give them a couple options, see if they like one better than the other, give them the context or the explanation. I think if you can set that stage well, it is much easier to get approvals. And hopefully people will like get to the, yeah, I think this is a good idea faster than like, I haven't seen this in my feed. But no, that is totally up to us as the creatives to like explain what we want to do. I think even if I was in a position where I was approving content, and I would never just blindly approve something. So
You have
yes,
to
the
ask the
context
questions.
always has to be there.
Matters.
And even if I would get the joke, sometimes I would just ask the question to understand how this person got to this point. Like, I want to know what your thought process is. Like, are you just doing this because it's a trend? Or are you doing this because you actually think this is a funny joke? Like, I'm very curious to see what made you think this was like the right fit, just to understand your team a little bit better. And again, just like build that trust. You have to understand like
fair.
how they think
Yeah.
about things.
I think that's a great way to go about it. And I will do that more. Thank you, Chi. But on the other side of the trust, like, is when there's trust, you feel like you have more creative freedom.
For
right?
sure.
Which I think is essential in social media. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I think if you ever hear the words that I'm sure we all have in our career that, oh, we want to be like the Duolingo. Duolingo is what it is because it has creative freedom. Duolingo didn't get there because of 7 people approving their content. It got there because there was creative freedom, right? And of course, part of creative freedom is earned. You can't just blindly give someone the keys to the kingdom, for sure. But I'm assuming that when you interview someone and you test them, there's some level that you start off with. You don't have to start off with 0. And if you see that this person has continuously used good judgment, they're doing great at their job, they're bringing you like new and fresh ideas, I think as leaders, it is upon us to like give them a little bit more space to grow. And again, going back to like my favorite job that taught me all of this, I was so afraid. I remember bringing something new and it didn't work, and I was so upset. And I thought I was going to lose my job. I was like, oh my God, my boss is going to fire me. Like, I'm so done. And he goes like, no, I want you to have a safe space to experiment and fail. If you don't fail, you're not pushing boundaries, or if you're just not getting as far as you can. So I think that was a very important lesson in creative freedom. One, like, sure, emotional security, like you're not going to lose your job, but also like having that trust that your boss is behind you when you want to experiment things is awesome. And that's what got our account from like 500,000 followers to 1 million in 1 year, is because I was given so much creative freedom. That was like that was insane. I think that was like the most growth I had seen in me as a creative person, and also
social
on
media
an account.
manager.
Yeah. And also on the account, like that grew so fast. And every single time like I've seen anyone trust a social media manager with creative freedom, like it's only ever, most of the times, I would say 90% of the times, it's only ever resulted in really good things. So when I hear these things like, oh, we want to be like the Duolingo, or we want to go viral, you can only do that if you give your team like creative freedom. You can't do that with like a tight approval process or with everything being super brand safe.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for bringing that up, because I was going to say that you can't say, I want us to be like Duolingo, but then still have 7 layers of approval. Like that doesn't coincide, right?
Yeah.
If you say, I want us to be like Duolingo, and I will enable us to do that by giving you creative freedom, right? That's like, there has to be a little bit of give, or
for sure,
a philosophical change on the.
It can totally be like a slow one as well. It doesn't have to be overnight. and understand like it's hard to give someone like all of that freedom overnight, but you can do it slow and steady. You can build it up, but then the results are like going to be at the same pace as you allow them to. And not to say like you won't get good results unless you give someone creative freedom. I fully believe you can get really good results based on good content. But creative freedom is a big part of like social media managers, like being able to like really push the boundaries for what it means to be a brand in this day and age. Everyone is sassy, everyone is hopping on trends. So it's like, what is making these like the brands you love stand out, right? Like, and if you think about it, it doesn't come from them being like roasting people online. It comes from like them having unique personalities. They don't all have to be sassy, and that personality will only come from the person managing that account, honestly. And they will give their personality if they have the creative freedom too. Otherwise, it's just going to sound like every other brand.
But within the brand voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, for sure.
So as someone who has actually gone viral, a couple of times, Chi, like I recognize that. It's happened to us a couple of times too. But has it ever been something that like that it was an idea that was given to you and it was like several layers of approvals? Has it ever been a case?
No. No.
And me neither. It's just been something like something that's occurred to me like, oh, wait a second, is that for real? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna tweet that right now. And you knew it was gonna go well, but I was like, oh, I didn't know that was gonna go viral.
Well. Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
for sure. No, none of the work that I've done that has gone viral has like had insane approvals, maybe one or two, and it might have been like the one that we put least amount of effort into. Honestly. It's always those.
It's always the one. Then you're like, wait, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. There's no formula, but definitely one thing they do have in common is like not heavy layers of approval.
For sure.
Yeah, that's true. So, what people that have issues getting leadership or legal team on board with the idea of being nimble or letting your social media team or manager cook, you have any recommendations of how to go about dealing with?
I mean, again, every company and every team is so different. There's no formula to this either. But like how we were discussing earlier, I think setting the stage is like half the battle. Like if you can give them all of the context, like exactly what questions are going to come your way if you've been in this field. Like they're going to ask for examples, what this joke means. If you can set the stage for them and like anticipate the answers to all of their questions, like that's literally half the battle. And if it just comes down to I don't get this joke or it's not on my feed, I think it's very simple. It's just like, okay, let's just try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll take it down. Like, what is the worst that can happen, right? And the other thing that I would often use, which always, like, don't use this too much, but like, I love being like, well, our competitors are doing it.
I give that advice. I give that recommends too. Like, when there's someone that's like a rival that's doing it, that seems to like strike a chord with people, right?
Yeah, because FOMO, nobody wants to like be left out. Nobody wants to be like the person who's slow or who didn't do it. So like the other thing is always like, oh, our competitors are doing it, so we should too. But then you can also flip it and say our competitors have not done it, so we should do it before they do it. So that is another way to like convince people. And like I think in social, a good reminder is always just like, you have a very short window to test this. If you want to test this, like you give them a timeline, which is always what I do. Like when I present like the whole context, the slide, the kind of copy, it'll always be like, great. And we have about 6 to 8 hours to get this out. If we don't get it out by then, we shouldn't like waste any more time on it. So like also giving them a time frame is super helpful to like come to a decision quickly. And it's also really helpful for you. So you're not mulling over it and dwelling over it for like days and days and days. But yeah, it's also important to know that you don't have to win every battle or every pitch. It's okay to let some things go. If it's making someone super uncomfortable, like just let it go. It's okay. There's new trends that come every day. You're going to find another one. So don't dwell on your wins and like don't dwell on failure either. Like it's best to just like keep moving.
Yeah, it's all a part of the process. Those are excellent tips. And wow, I thought we had at least 24 hours. You just said 6 to 7 hours. We have 6 to 7 hours, y'all.
That is, yeah, I would say that is like a good window, like on a good trend, like the
okay.
Saratoga water meme. Like that was, you really just had like a day.
That's true. Yeah.
You only had like those 8 hours on that Monday to do it. Anyone who did it after, like on Tuesday, it was like, you were late.
It was done. It was done and over.
I would say most traction will come if you can get it out within 6 hours. Wow. Yeah. I would try to get it out within 6, maximum 8. Because anything after that, it's not like it would do bad, but like then it's already done. Most of the jokes that had to be made are already made. People have already seen it. They're already like over it maybe. Like even the mindful demure trend, right? Like the brands who hopped on in the first 2 days are probably like the ones who like capitalized it on the most. And then everyone came around to it. But by then we were all so sick of it. We're like,
it was a little stale.
Yeah, like stop. So I would say try to get it out within the first 6 to 8 hours. And also all of it depends on the trend too. Maybe some last longer.
Yeah.
But most, from what I've seen, at least in the last like year or two, like 6 to 8 hours is like a good window. I know, it's so fast.
Yeah, you just opened my eyes to that one. Gee, I've learned so much. So I have one more question for you. Gee, what is your confession?
My confession is more of like a hot take, and I feel like assignments should be paid. And I also think assignments should not be given to everybody. You should give them to people who are just starting out, who you need to test if there's someone who has a body of work.
You're talking about when you're interviewing.
Yes.
And you're giving assignments.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you have a body of work to show, if you have over 5 years of experience, like there is really honestly no need for an assignment, especially when it comes to social, because no one should be building out a content calendar or a content strategy for any brand for free. If you want someone to make like a post for you or make like a tweet for you, pay them. Because it is still like you are still asking them to do some work. So it just is mind-blowing to me when people who are interviewing, me included, and alongside me, some of us have like 9, 10 years of experience and we're given an assignment. And I'm like, what? My whole resume is an assignment at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I have an extensive body of work to show. So I'm always like, is this just becoming a mindless practice to buy time or like make interview processes longer? Or are you, like, what are you trying to test here, right? There's also only so much you can test from one social media post. I don't think they're a bad practice, but I do think people have to be mindful about who they're giving assignments to. I would totally give it to people who are like still very green, who just graduated. I would love to understand
that's fair
their process of thinking. But if I'm like interviewing a peer or someone who has like 5+ years of experience, like I would not be asking them to do an assignment.
You know, now that you like, all of my work is public.
Exactly. All of our work. Yes.
I'm like, I would go look at the MIT, accounts for the past 10 years.
And I absolutely have turned down interviews or withdrawn my name if they ask me to do an assignment. Not like out of ego, but I'll just like, can I send you my body of work?
Yeah, that's
why
fair.
don't you look at this? And if you still have questions or if you still want me to do an assignment, I'm happy to do so. But I always kind of like show them my whole list of work. Like I have like top 20 examples, like most recent ones. I have like them categorized by writing, by creative direction, by everything. So I'm like, how about let's look at this. And then if there's anything that sticks out to you or something you want me to work on from this list for you, happy to do so. But I do feel like assignments, like they have to be more mindful about who they give assignments to, because if I'm doing 4+ rounds for you and then you're asking me for an assignment, like no way. I don't believe that is a real process. There's no way to test someone on that.
Gee, I am in absolute agreement, and I really, really love that hot take. Gee, this conversation has been very eye-opening for me, and thank you so much for taking your time to be on the podcast with me.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I love chatting it up with you.
Thanks for listening to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.